Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
Welcome to a very special edition of Turn a Page, Nerd Initiative's comic book club on YouTube and in podcast form. My name is Ken M. I'm the host of the ODPH podcast, and I'm also Nerd Initiative's comics editor-in-chief. And this is a special edition because not only do we have two amazing creators on the show, but the entire Nerd Initiative Comics Bullpen team is here. Marty Stoked, Matt Roth, and Lauren Freeman from Hops Geeks News are in the studio as well. And also to my right, your left, I don't even try doing his intro. Let him take it away.
Coming at you live and direct, straight from a folding chair in the ODPH studios. My name is Off the Cuff Tom, Nerd Initiative's pop culture connoisseur. Ken, Jeff, Jay, always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
That was a nice intro, Tom. Very DJ, very radio DJ.
I try my best because it's so much energy to come out with this, because with what was unfolding at New York Comic Con this year, we got the press release about a brand new creator-owned company that really had a literal hit list of top-level creators being a part of a new company that is really going to take the comic book world by storm. And just the passion and the energy that was coming out from each panel absolutely blew me away, to the point that I think my team here got very sick of me talking about, you need to get on board with Ghost Machine, because I literally have been sold on what you have coming up in the latter half of this year with an amazing series out, Geiger Ground Zero, and leading into January's one shot, which is going to kick off the entire Ghost Machine movement. And I could sit here and rave about this all day, but we have two creators on the line that can do it much better than I can. You know their work from Green Lantern, Justice League, Batman, Three Jokers, and so many more, but that is the past. The future is Ghost Machine. So please welcome to the show, writer of Geiger Ground Zero, GEOFF Johns, and from the upcoming Rook Exodus, JASON FABOK. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us, Ken. We're psyched to be here.
Absolutely. So that being said, talk to us. How did this whole Ghost Machine movement come about?
I mean, it really started from, all of us talking over the years about, about our love for comic books, our passion for comic books, and working with each other. And, Gary and I had just finished up Doomsday Clock, and Gary wanted to do something, create our own, non-superhero or superhero adjacent. And so Eric Stevenson had been asking me for years to do something at Image, and I was excited to do it. So we went and did Geiger. And as we did that, we were just having a lot of fun. And then Jay and I were wrapping up Three Jokers, which was a huge passion project for us. Jay, we worked on that for what, like 2 years?
2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years. Like, we really put everything we had into that book. And Jay and I have worked together for, God, I can't remember how long it's ago, since I DM'd him at 1:30 in the morning saying, what are you working on? And we ended up on Justice League together. But we've been working together for 7 years, Jay, something like that.
Since like 2014, 13.
Maybe 8 or 9. It's been a long time. So we were starting to work on a creator-owned book, and then I was talking to, Brad Meltzer and Brian Hitch and Francis Manipul, and all of us just started talking about how do we kind of make a better company. Like, there's all these companies out there that are editorial structures that then hire talent. And so we basically flipped it. We're talent, we hire our editorial structure. But the way we built this is we wanted to do something that was, character driven and comics first and super high quality, and then co-own everything and co-run it together. And so Ghost Machine developed out of that. The name Ghost Machine came from, I don't know if you guys are probably familiar with the term Ghost in the Machine, which is like from the 1940s. This I think philosopher in France came up with it with the spirit and the body, talking about like the spirit is separate from the body, the ghost in the machine. And then today it's evolved into this saying that programmers use when a program in the computer is not doing quite what it was programmed to do it, and they can't explain why. It's like magic. It's like undefinable. And to us, the passion and the creative and the talent, you can't like replicate it very easily, right? It's special for everybody. I always talk about how everybody has a unique perspective when it's expressed creatively that can't be replicated. And so we are that ghost together. We are the ghost in the machine. We are the passion that you can't control or program or quite frankly tell us what to do anymore. And we just want to create great books, great characters, and have fun doing it with people we really love and respect. And so that's how the company grew from a handful of us to, you know, there's like 15 people. There's a few creators we haven't even announced yet, and some more that are coming. There's a couple we're going to be announcing next month. But Ghost Machine really developed out of just our love for comic books, our love for working together, and our love for creating great characters. And then our desire and need at this point in our careers to really say like, hey, this is when the books are going to be out. This is what we want to do. This is how we're going to build our universe. This is our cadence. This is our tone. This is, you know, all our characters. When I was writing Green Lantern, I absolutely loved it. And I have the same feeling when I'm writing these books right now but the thing about Green Lantern is like, there's always other things, even with Green Lantern, always other things around it that affected it, whether it be a schedule or DC wanted to book out on a certain time or crossovers or whatever. And it was cool. But for us, this is a matter of taking everything we've done in our careers and kind of leveling up creatively and even logistically with how we're laying it all out.
No, I mean, absolutely. You can tell that. I mean, the synergy that you all have together too, because like I say, with Gary Frank, Brian Hitch, Francis Manapul, Lamont McGee on board, Brad Meltzer, Peter Tomasi, Maz Yusha, and Brad Anderson too, and Rob Lay too, because we always have to remember the colorists and the letterers put together the book. It's not just a writer doing everything; it's a whole team, and you can feel that synergy coming out, especially with what you were saying in New York. And what resonated to me was characters first. And that was the big takeaway that I took. And hearing that, I mean, how much of that is the importance of the Ghost Machine culture?
Yeah, I mean, the character first thing is something that we right from the day one, it was the most important thing for us. I mean, we know artistically that we can bring things to that are going to be a high level that people are going to really enjoy to look at and see. And Jeff's, arguably one of the best writers in comic books of the last 25 years, and he's created so many memorable characters within the DC pantheon. And it's like, we really want to make sure that our books are character driven, story driven. There's we want the readers. We want to win back the readers. I think I know myself as a comic fan, I'm getting a little burnt out at some of the things that DC and Marvel and have been doing with their characters, and it just seems like it's about other things other than like the characters. It's about collecting, a million different covers for this book or that book or whatever. It's like these are comic books, in my opinion, I think it's the best medium to tell a story in. You as the reader, you are filling in the holes between the panels. You are becoming the characters. You are hearing them speak in your head as you're reading these books. And we want to take everything that we've learned and everything that we've been excited about when we worked on, Batman and Green Lantern and Superman and all these characters that we've had. It was a complete honor to work on these characters. It's like now we want to do it with something new. We want to create new legacies. We want to create new characters. I know for myself, I started a few years back looking at guys like Todd McFarlane and Mike Mignola and saying like, look at these, they kind of broke off from the mainstream and they created characters that will outlive them. People will be collecting and reading Spawn and Hellboy, years after their two creators are gone. So, it's like we kind of want to do something like that. We want to take a chance. We want to build up a legacy with these characters and just deliver really great stories. We want readers to pick up our books, read through them and say, man, I can't wait till next month. I mean, that was such a great feeling growing up reading these different books and really getting into these different characters is that I loved going back to the comic shop the next month to pick up the next issue of these books. There's a magic to that. There's a magic to that way of diving into the medium. And so that's what we really want to do. We want to win over the fans. We want to win over fans who feel like there's there's nothing for them at DC and Marvel anymore. We want to win those fans back. We want to get those readers back on board, because we believe that there's still so much to be explored in comic books. It's not a dying medium. It's a medium that is going to keep continuing and growing, and we're excited for this. We're excited for this journey and these books and these characters. We really think we've created some great stuff, and I know personally, I'm really itching for people to get Rook. I've been working on it for a while. I want people to start reading it. I want the feedback from the audience. I want I want to see them fall in love with these characters that we've created. And so I don't know, Jeff, if you want to add anything to that.
I'll just be quick. Like even on our website, we have characters before creators, right? Even like we are all about the characters, because it is about the characters first. For all of us, when we co-own everything, even though we're creating our own books, you're rooting for everybody, right? Because we're all in this together, and that also makes it special and unique. And what we want to create is a pantheon of characters. I remember when I would get out at the DC offices in New York when I was just starting, and there's an elevator that would open up, and there was this beautiful mural of all their characters on the wall from different artists. It's actually online. You can find it. And when we first started off, I'm like, I want to see Geiger and Redcoat and Rook and all these other characters in a lineup. I want people to know our characters, and, Junkyard Joe and the Rockefellers and everybody else we've got coming up is the names of our books are the characters, the for the most part, the getting back to the core comic book thing that I loved when I was growing up. When Image came out, it was like Spawn and Savage Dragon and Wildcats. I was like, oh my God, all these new characters. It wasn't like the planet at the end of the galaxy or whatever. It was like, which is conceptual, but it was based on a character, a human being, a person, somebody that you could relate to, connect with, and then follow them through anything. And that's why I'm so excited about it, because I love spending time with these characters. I love these characters. And when I was writing, like, whether it be Green Lantern or Aquaman or anything, it was all about the character. So all the other stuff was really fun around it, whether it be Sinestro Corps, Blackest Night, or anything, but it was the character at the center of the story, to me, that was everything. Even in Batman 3 Jokers, it was all about Batman and Barbara Gordon and Jason Todd. And those three characters, the trauma they've been through, the pain that the Joker inflicted on them, the scars they carried with them, and following those characters in. And for us, this was always like, we talked a lot about how really a lot of the independent companies or books have gotten away from a lead character, like a title character. Like there's a lot of great comic books out there that are awesome. But we missed that kind of collection of lead characters. Again, from when I was growing up, when Valiant hit for the first time, it was exciting because there were just new characters, and you didn't have to read anything. Yeah. You don't have to read anything but Geiger 1, and then the next issue, Geiger 2. And there's only one place to get that character and get their story. And there's not going to be 100 versions of that character. It's just this one. Same with Rook and Redcoat and everybody else we're doing. And that to me is exciting. It's that kind of concentration of creative and direction. And like Jay said, I love cliffhangers. Cliffhangers are the best. And being like, I cannot wait to read Geiger 2, Rook 2, Redcoat 2, and beyond. Like that's really all we're trying to do is create great comic books. And we're focused on the character and the story first beyond anything else. The only other thing we're focused on is having a great company that everyone, and we already do because of all the people part of it, but everyone loves working together, respects each other, and is pulling in the same direction. And that's what we are. we all have a passion for comic books, and we want to bring that passion and really concentrate and put it front and center. That's why we're all exclusive to Ghost Machine, is put all our energy into that instead of, you know, other places.
I think you hit on something too, real quick, is, you know, Jay mentioned bringing the fans back. And I think the best way to do that is because sometimes in comic books, it's like, where do you start as a fan? Like, I'm new to comic books. Where do I start? And like you said, Jeff, this is like, you only got to read this and then you got to read this, and that's it. You don't have to jump 50 years back. And I think that's also a really important jumping point for maybe new comic book fans that are looking to check out new characters.
Yeah. All you need, by the way, anyone can jump on Ghost Machine 1. That's all you need to read. That has an intro to all our first kind of wave of books, all our characters, a lot of first appearances of the characters. And then you just need to read one title. Like, you know, you just need to, and our goal is not to publish, like someone's like, how many books are you guys going to publish a month? I'm like 4 to 6 at the most, because we want to make them great. You know, like we want, like, I remember when Image first started, I'm like, I'm going to collect every Image book. And then it got kind of unwieldy. We really want to have a concentration of high quality comic books, and that someone can come in and if they see Ghost Machine on it, they know it's going to be good, right? Mm-hmm. They know it's going to be a beautiful book. It's going to have a great story. It's going to be, and that's what it's going to be about: character and story. It's not going to be about 100 multiple covers. It's not going to be about, you know, anything but that, the character and the story, and high quality. Like we're working really hard, and we've been doing this a long time. And I'm the most excited I've ever been. Like I'm working on a script right now, and I was talking to Gary Frank this morning. I'm most excited I've ever been writing. Like I haven't enjoyed writing this much in comic book, and I love writing comic books, but it's just fun to be able to focus all your energy back on one thing, on one place. And it is important to I think create something that people can jump on board and not go, which version of this character is it? What's their origin? When it, like, you know, we're not going to be rebooting Rook. Like this is Rook. You're going to read Rook and it's going to be Rook #1, Rook Exodus 1. You're going to get on board and see the first appearance of these characters, get to know them, and can follow their adventures pretty cleanly.
So no more multiverses.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're not going to be playing with the multiverse. So.
We can only, as an audience, we can only handle so many multiverses.
Thank God.
Yeah, we're not going to be doing multiverses.
But
Absolutely.
crossovers.
One of the things with crossover, I'll just say this. One of the things with crossovers, because there'll be like, there's some interactions with these characters here and there, but one of the things with crossovers, whenever I worked on a crossover, whether it was, again, I'll go back to Blackest Night, it was always about the characters still. And back then it was about character. It wasn't about concepts. It wasn't about like, let's explore a concept. It was all about, let's explore a character. Flashpoint's about Barry Allen trying to overcome loss. And then his grief, he messes up history, and his grief infects everything around him. And it's an analysis of what grief can do to somebody, which is why it's so important that Thomas Wayne was the Batman, because having lost my sister, I saw what my dad went through as a parent. It's very different than a child watching their parents die. A parent watching their child die affects them so differently. And the grief that results from that is massively different. It's much darker, much heavier, much more violent, I think, to their soul. And so Flashpoint was all about grief and processing grief in different ways, good and bad. Batman 3 Jokers was all about, Jay and I talked about it forever. It was about trauma and healing right and healing wrong, and learning from it and not learning from it. Barbara Gordon, you know, emotionally, she kind of figured it out. Physically, she still was running on that treadmill, even though she was the fastest she's ever been. She wouldn't stop. And so for us, you know, all these stories that's why, again, character, they're all about character. They're all about something. Everything's about something. And it's not just, you know, conceptually like, oh, this huge giant, I don't know, whatever it is, but it's all about character.
I think that's
awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things too, because I think of this whole group here, I'm probably the least experienced with comic book reading, because I got into it so late. And just to hear that from a new comic book reader's perspective, that's huge. And for me, I always struggled with trying to find where to start and what run and where. And this whole series, like as soon as Ken showed me, like sent us the press releases, I was like, I was sold on the character alone of just Geiger. I was like, this guy looks awesome. And I've since read all of volume 1 of Geiger, read the first issue, picked it up of the latest run with the two issues coming out, and then I've also read Junkyard Joe. And these two characters are so different, and yet they're going to be intertwined. And coming into this whole thing with Ghost Machine, it's going to be all intertwined too. So I am super stoked for it. And like, how did it sounded like you guys had a ton of success in this first launch based off of what you did. How did that critical and commercial success of Geiger kind of influence your decision through making Ghost Machine and launching the new series, considering you're dealing with such a diverse group of characters and storylines?
Yeah, it really was organic because we went and did it, and it did, like, Gary and I were like, oh, maybe we'll do this and then we'll go back and do another DC or Marvel book, and it did so well that it was so fun to work on. We had so much fun being in control, and I think a lot of people mistake when we say we want control, as in we want to be control, like crazy control. And the idea is like, no, it's just we want to be able to collaborate. I love collaboration. I love taking feedback. We want to work together and collaborate, but we want to be able to control certain aspects of it. And what happened with Geiger's success is that it just did really well. And then Jay and I were going to do something else for DC, and we actually started just working on our own, like on Rook, and it grew organically out of that. Is that we just, with the success that came with it, and how well it did, and the reaction to it, and just the fact that we were like creating new, it was exciting. And then Jay and I started talking, and then it just grew organically out of that. It wasn't, I don't think we didn't do Geiger and then set out to create a Ghost Machine. It happened over the last 2 years of going, how do we make, I own a comic shop in Sherman Oaks called Earth 2 Comics. And I can tell you, I watch a lot about how people buy comics and who comes in and who quits and who comes in that's new and what they're looking for. And I want great comics on the shelf. That's what we all want. We just want to help put as best comic books out there as possible to get people into the stores reading comics, as much as we can. And so it just organically grew out of like, how do we make a better business? How do we make great comics? How do we work together with people we love? How do we do all that? So it did grow very organically over the last 2 years. We spent a lot of time on this. The fact that it didn't leak before New York Comic Con was a miracle. We've been talking about Ghost Machine for, Jay, how long? Like, it's been,
it was muted. Yeah. It's been at least a year since we've been really hardcore talking about this, but it goes back even before that.
Yeah, it was important to build a proper business plan too. Like I ran Stargirl for 3 seasons and had to manage, like an $80 million, $90 million budget. And to really look at the production of it, I was in Atlanta every day. It feels a lot like show running a show. It's like you're building an entirely new system, but we spent a lot of time being very meticulous about it, about how we could do it right, how we can learn from it. And we know we're going to hit speed bumps along the way. And if you know that you're going to run into challenges and you're going to run into disappointment and you're going to run into things you got to figure out. But if you know that and you're ready for it, when it comes, you can handle it. And especially when you handle it with a team like this one together. So we've been, we're evolving and growing as we go, but we're really confident in the books we're doing and the characters we're creating. But yeah, Marty, this just happened very organically and meticulously. Like we took over a year to really build this out and then announce it in New York Comic Con. And you saw when we announced it, I mean, we didn't announce it with a press release. We had a booth, we have a website, we have a store, we have books, we had ash cans there. So we wanted to show up and be like, we've been working for a long time on this and we're ready. We did not want to launch before we're ready. We've all been in situations, Jay and I have, and the rest of the creators, where you're working on a book that's supposed to ship in April and the company moves it up by 6 months in November because they need to make their yearly, dollar sign. And so suddenly you've lost 6 months of lead time and everyone's yelling that you're late. Oh, we want to do this our way. That's part of the reason too. Like Gary and I wanted to be able to say, we're going to ship the book when we're ready, not when you guys think you need money for the fourth quarter.
I mean, that's awesome. And the quality, just the quality of the content that you guys have put out thus far in that first book, and just the character design and art. Oh my God. Like I'm so stoked. I'm all in. I mean, I can't wait to see what you guys do and what you guys continue to do in partnership with some of the great organizations that you've been working with.
Yeah, wait do you see Jay's design for the antagonist in Rook, the first antagonist in Rook? It's one of the most. I want an action figure of that one, Jay. So much plastic.
Yeah.
He's huge.
I think a lot of it too, like you showing that you guys show up to New York Comic Con, you're ready, you've got all this stuff ready to go. It also builds trust and automatic buy-in from readers too, because it's like, oh, they are serious. This isn't just more, creators saying that they're going to do creator owned and then just like, oh, here it is, and it's going to be gone in the wind. This is like, no, we are firmly here, set in stone. And we're even seeing some things nowadays, like a lot more creative owned things. We have distillery, black market narrative. What are some pros and cons going creator owned? And then do you think that's kind of more the future of comic books, or what do you think that's going to lead down the road?
Yeah. Well, I mean, pros and cons, like pros, I mean, you're creating things ideas that you may have had years ago. You get to bring them to life, like with Rook, he's been a character that's been kind of in my head, design wise since when I was, my late teens, early 20s, and he's kind of evolved over the years because I figured, eventually I'll get to this character. But you get in on, I was doing well at DC and I was really enjoying it, and playing in that Batman kind of universe and Justice League and stuff, and you kind of put stuff like that to the back burner, and you always sit there and think like, one day I'm going to take that chance and I'm going to maybe make this character into something. And then but like to be able to create characters that you like, and grow them and see them become real is awesome. Seeing it, there's a different feel. Like, it's great to work on Batman, it's great to work on Superman, but we didn't create these characters. These are characters that were created, some of them 80 years ago, and they've had great staying power, and they're going to be around for a lot longer than us too. I mean, they're great. Batman is my favorite character ever, and but I didn't create the character. I'm honored to be somebody who's had the opportunity to be a steward of the character. I believe that that's what your job is as an artist or writer. You're to be a good steward of these characters who aren't yours, and to guide them and to keep them going along the same path they've always gone. You can change things up, you can kind of throw the fans for a loop, but by the end of your series, the character should kind of be back to where they were for the next guy to kind of take over and do his thing. And you shouldn't change them up too much, because that's why people like them, is because of the way that they are. But we're coming in this with brand new characters that nobody's ever known, and you get to play around with them. You can shock people with them. You can do different things. You can lead them up one direction and then change the direction somewhere else, and you can build up their backstories, and you can just, it's like you fall in love with you. They feel like these characters become like part of you. They're like a kid or something like that, and it's a lot of fun to be creative like that. From a con side, you don't have Batman and Green Lantern and Superman to sell your book. As a creator have to go out there. You're creating a new character. You have to keep your expectations under check, and you have to say, Jeff and I, and the whole company, we've been really talking about setting our expectations to a healthy expectation, but also knowing that this is a long game. We're not expecting to sell 100,000 copies of these books day one. We're expecting, we've all been devoted, we're all devoted to working on these characters for a long time to grow the mythology. I hope that Rook is a character that I really would love to be like Mike Mignola and work on a character for 20 plus years and grow the mythology of that character. and see them become more as they go, and then pass them on maybe one day to the next generation for them to tell stories like that. To me, that would be an incredible legacy and an incredible accomplishment. And so I'm in it for the long haul. I want to grow these characters. I want to see Rook become something really special, and I'm willing to put in the time, and I'm willing to also win over the audience as time goes by. We may not sell a ton of books at first, but maybe we grow the audience a little by little every year, and they start really loving these characters and wanting to know more about them. And so there is a bit of a risk to it, but I think there's a great reward to it as well.
Mhm.
And we've seen those. We've seen.
I agree. I think everything he said, and also Matt, like commitment, like is what Jay said. Like we're committed to these characters. Like that's it. Like we're doing these characters. We're running these books. This is not. We're not going to do like I'm not going to write 4 issues of Geiger and then go write something else. I think there's a level of sophistication and character development that you can only get when you're doing long form storytelling in comics. That's what I've always loved, and that's what we're building out here. These are, like Jay said, this is a long game. We're playing. It's like we're committed to these characters, and we're committing to let these characters and their audiences grow as we do our books.
It's like
So do you
building
feel
through the
more
draft.
do you feel more freedom in the creative process now, whereas before you had to follow somewhat of that outline for Batman or Green Lantern?
It's different, when you work on a character that's so well defined like Batman, you just kind of accept and I don't say this as a bad word, the box that you're in, right? I like being in a box sometimes. You're like, I'm in the Batman universe. I'm going to write a story with Joker and Jason Todd and Barbara Gordon. And Jay and I had a great time doing that. I loved writing in the box of the DC universe. I never really felt like I couldn't tell the stories I really wanted to tell. There are always things you have to kind of adhere to because of things going on, or like, you've got this month, Power Girl's wearing a jacket, right? Like you get that kind of note. And I'm like, okay, great. Why is she wearing a jacket? And I don't get a response. That's when and they're like, she's just wearing a jacket now. That's when I kind of I'm like, well, it'd be nice if I knew why she traded her cape, because I could write her a little better, but it's okay. I'll just put the jacket on her if you guys insist. So there's things like that you have to deal with. But I was very lucky in the fact that most of my career, I chose to work on the characters that nobody cared about, like Booster Gold and Aquaman. When I started Green Lantern, they just didn't care. Justice Society. Most of the time, they were like, can you please write Batman instead? And I preferred writing those obscure characters, or those characters that had kind of been forgotten about. The Teen Titans. Like when I launched Teen Titans, everyone was like, that book's going to be canceled in 6 issues. Nobody wants to read a Teen Titans book. And I love when they said that. Don't do Aquaman. I remember they said, Ivan Reese and I were going to do Aquaman. They said, don't waste your time on Aquaman. Go do Batman. And it was great. So I had a lot of creative freedom because of that. And also because we had some success on the books we did. But even with Batman 3 Jokers and those big characters, I don't think Jay and I had some, when we were working on it, there were some issues we had to deal with continuity and DC and all that stuff. But for the most part, we took any kind of lemon that came our way, we made into lemonade. And Jay and I talked about that a lot. There's some things in 3 Jokers that evolved because of that in a great way. It just made the book better. So it's not necessarily about getting creative freedom that we can do things we weren't allowed to do at DC, but it is about being able to tell complete stories where we can create and go anywhere we want and talk about anything we want and explore anything we want and create our own thematics to explore. When you're working on Green Lantern, to me, that thematic better be grounded in overcoming fear and dealing with fear, because that's what Green Lantern's all about. You are chosen because you can overcome fear. It doesn't mean you're fearless, but you can overcome it. We changed that. So there was a story there. You have to have a story of some kind. So those thematics, those kind of emotional centers are set in those DC characters. I think when you change them or destroy them or stray from them, you might as well be writing a story about Firestorm or whoever, if you're not going to make the central core, theme about what the character is all about. With this, we can just create our own. Geiger has his own. Rook has his own. Redcoat, everybody has their own central core theme that we want to explore and say something about today. You know, most of those characters created in the 40s, 50s, 60s, they say a lot about their era, and our characters are saying a lot about ours.
For sure. And
So,
you know, oh, go ahead.
with both of you guys having the utility belts of awesomeness of working over all these years of all these franchises, and you guys have a venerable corral of super friends writing for you, what are the tropes both on the page and off the page that you're trying to avoid or, you know, steer around as you're managing this whole new company?
God, tropes. I mean, I don't know if we consciously are like doing a checklist of what tropes we want to avoid on the page. I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. You know, we try and make all our stories unique, our characters unique. One of the things I will say is that we're not doing straight superheroes. So that's a giant trope in itself. And the reason we're not is back in the day, way back when, comic books were Westerns and romance books and sci-fi books and superhero books and horror books and all these different genre. And they eventually evolved as TV evolved and film evolved. Suddenly there was horror on television and in film, and there was Westerns and war, and you saw those genres disappear in comics as they really grew in media, right? And so the comics became more and more and more and more about superheroes. They leaned on superheroes because superheroes couldn't be done in media. Now that superheroes are all over media, they're all over film and TV, we feel like it's time to get back to the diversity of genre that comic books originally were. Comic books, when you say comic books, you don't say superheroes. You know, or everyone thinks of superheroes. We don't. We are not doing straight superheroes. We're doing genre, we're doing sci-fi, we're doing family books, horror books, we're doing all sorts of different genre, but we aren't doing straight superhero books, capes and tights. As Brian Hitch said it so I think eloquently and simply in one of our videos, he said, you know, heroes yes, capes no. And that's, I guess, Tom, a trope that an area, I guess, that we feel is very well covered in comic books. There's straight superheroes are very, very well covered. So we want to do something different. We all, even Geiger's, it's like he's got abilities and stuff, but it's superhero adjacent. It's a post-nuclear war story about a guy who will do anything to protect his family, and then ultimately has to learn to, you know, kind of find a new one, and then it goes from there. But that's a trope, I guess. I don't know if you want to call it a trope, but we're trying to avoid the superhero tropes. We're trying to avoid the straight superhero stuff that we've seen over and over and over. I loved the original Vertigo titles like Shade the Changing Man and Doom Patrol and Sandman and all those books. Hellblazer, you know, we've got some of that influences what we're doing. But as far as character-centered stuff goes and off the beaten path. And then the tropes behind the scenes are off the page. I mean, we've talked a lot about it. Some of the stuff we'll be announcing just as terms of, like, you know, I think it's probably a little too early to talk about some of the things, but some of it is stuff that will be consumer facing, and some of this stuff is just internally, like what we want our culture to be, what we want our, you know, strategy to be, you know, with our characters in our books and our scheduling and all that.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something that you're doing, and that's, oh, I'm sorry.
I was just saying,
interrupt. I was going to say,
go ahead, Ken.
Oh, go, Jeff. I'm sorry.
No,
What I was going to say is it's something that, you know, we can tell as readers are already seeing about the diverse way that you're approaching things. I mean, not everything is a superhero story. It's not so cookie cutter, if you will. And it's also another approach that you do, especially to touch upon briefly, because I know we're running very tight on time, about what you did with Junkyard Joe and the charities for the VA and the T-shirts. Can you touch upon a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. Junkyard Joe is it feels like Gary and I love doing that book. You know, he was introduced in Geiger in a very different way. And then we wanted to, again, it's character driven. When we did Junkyard Joe 136, we had a story we really wanted to tell that was, you know, Joe is essentially a stand-in for veterans. Like he, and he come, you know, it's a story about veterans. And so we wanted to make it special. And one of the things we did do is with the first issue, we did a special black and white edition where we raised money for two organizations, the National Coalition of Homeless Veterans here in the States and Veterans Aid in the UK, where Gary is from. And he lives in Italy now. And both our grandparents served in World War II. And we wanted to find a place to not only tell the story, but also to kind of give back the best way we could. We also have T-shirts up on our a shop that are all the proceeds go to those two organizations too. But it just grew out of the organically, it grew out of the nature of the story, with the story we're telling, and a unique story. I don't think you'll find a story like Junkyard Joe in any other comic book, especially out there on the stands right now. And that's a different type of story. You read that, it's not like every other book that Marvel and DC do, and it's not like anything else Gary and I've ever done. It's a different kind of tonal.
Yeah.
It definitely stands out on its own. Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, I was just gonna say, as Tom's a Navy vet, and I've been in the Air Force for 12 years. That's something that really stood out to the both of us and the whole team, and it was like definitely something we wanted to ask, and something that we just wanted to drop and say we appreciate you guys actually doing that, putting a spotlight on that, because it's something that really means a lot to not only us two, but a lot of people that our families know personally.
Well, thanks for your service, guys.
Just doing my job.
No, absolutely. No, I mean, it's such a great cause to do. And it's just another point that you're doing stuff that is very different. And you can definitely feel not only is it character driven what you're doing, but it is just, you're taking things and doing a different approach to it that stands out. And that is something that just gravitates towards a fan. And especially now leading into the one shot that is coming out in January, just to kind of wrap this interview up with, if I'm at the comic shop and I'm hearing this for the first time, what is the selling point? Why should I make sure that I do not walk out of the comic shop in January 2024 without that one shot in my hand? That's my question to you both.
I'll answer that in fact first, but let me say something really, really quick about the shirts and all that, because one of the things that Jay said, and this is about the company, one of the things that Jay said when we did Three Jokers, like these covers were blown up. He's like, why can't you buy it? Everyone's asking me where can I buy a t-shirt with that art? And the process to kind of get that going would have been taken months and months and months because of all the red tape. I know. But with this, we control it. We can have that. If someone says we want a t-shirt of Rook, this image of Rook, we can get it up online and ready to go literally that day. So, because we control it all, we have the autonomy. So that is another aspect of the company that's pro. If people want something, we can do it right away. If people ask about it, we have the ability to do whatever we want with these characters. We together own the copyrights, and nobody else can tell us otherwise. We had a summit in New York, which is probably, Ken, why you could feel the camaraderie, because we spent days together for the first time as a team before New York Comic Con started. We had an amazing bonding experience, and there was a moment we were in the conference room all together, and I was just like, there's nobody outside this room that can tell us what to do. There's no corporate overlords.
Yeah, it's the best feeling in the world.
It is. It's the best feeling in the world to be able to just control it. We will sink or swim ourselves, but that I'd rather take a leap like this with the people I love and trust and respect than to have to do something and listen to somebody tell me what to do. Or tell us we need this, we want this is going to ship here, you're late. Like we're adults, we can handle ourselves. But anyway, back to Ghost Machine 1. Why you have to pick it up? Worries. It's 64 pages of amazing story and art that will introduce a new generation of characters that are created for today, and that will be spinning off into books starting in April. It's only $4.99. It's 64 pages. It will give you a taste of everything that Ghost Machine has and teases what to come. We haven't even announced everybody that's in that book yet. So it's really exciting for us. I'll talk over to Jay.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective as an artist, I mean, you got Gary Frank and Ryan Hitch, Francis Manapool, and another secret artist who will be in there too, which will knock people's socks off. And the book just looks beautiful from an artistic standpoint, but the stories are great. It's a great little introduction book, and we're really hoping that people will pick it up, give it a chance, take a read, and then get excited for the books that are going to be coming in April with Rook and Redcoat and Geiger as well. And we have so much passion for these things that we're producing, and we really believe in this and believe in these characters. We think that these characters are going to be characters you're going to see, not only in comic books, but also, TVs and movies and all kinds of stuff in the future. And this is a chance to get in on the ground floor. Like when, imagine getting in on the ground floor of like Batman, or, the closest thing I can remember would have been like the 90s with like Spawn and all those image books. This is the chance to like kind of get in on that ground floor and start reading these adventures of these characters and be a part of it.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
And get back to books that you want like Jay said earlier, you can't wait for the next issue every month. That's what we want. We want excitement in comics again. We want excitement month after month, week after week. We want to give people books that they cannot wait to read and characters that they absolutely love.
And that's something that we as comic readers are absolutely dying to get a hold of. I can't stress this enough to you, the listening audience. In the liner notes of this podcast is the code to go to your comic shop and comicshoplocator.com link. So there's no reason you should not run down there and order multiple copies of this, because this is going to be a book that is going to kick off a whole new revolution in comics. And if you haven't seen anything of what they're doing right now, go to Ghost Machine's website. The link is there also as well. Sign up for the newsletter. You don't want to miss out on all the excitement that is coming out of this, because trust me, as a fan that was in attendance, this is going to be the real deal. There is no hype behind this. This is just facts. If you want character-driven stories, you've got it. If you want amazing creators, you've got it. There is no other reason you should be passing on this book otherwise than you just, bought too many copies that you can't buy another one. That is legitimately the only thing you need to do. Make sure you sign up for that. Gentlemen, on behalf of my team, thank you for taking the time out to talk with us. After the one shot comes out, we definitely have to talk again.
Great. We'll be here. And yeah, again, any information you guys want out there, ghostmachinepro.com or Ghost Machine Pro at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and you'll find all of us there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're posting a lot of little sneak peeks and stuff like that. We can do that because we don't have DC or
yeah, no one.
I can show what I'm working on today, or tomorrow or whatever. I can sneak peek it to get people excited about that. That's a lot of fun. I love that.
Yeah, it is fun. It's fun to be able to, again, like nobody, no one can tell. We don't have to get 18 people to approve something to be able to post a picture of a panel, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be the best feeling in the world, especially when you have a DIY book that comes with so much passion and really drives home the point that you've heard multiple times throughout this episode: characters first. It is something that we get behind here at the Nerd Initiative, and something that Ghost Machine lives every day. When you start seeing these characters come out, it's phenomenal stuff. So we'll just close it like how we always do with Turn a Page. When you're at the comic book shop and you have a great issue in your hand, much like the Ghost Machine one shot, and you look at somebody and they're struggling to find something on the shelf, hand yours off to them, tell them turn a page. We'll see you next time.